Welcome to Katsoff Consulting's presentation of What's New with Autodesk Revit 2015. My name is Patrick Villela, and in this presentation I'll be demonstrating how to add images to your schedules. Let's get started with how to add an image to a Revit system family. Now, depending on how you do your room finish schedules, you may be doing them by placing a floor within a room, then associating a material to your floor type. That's one of the ways that I did it here. But I've also simply got these rooms that when I select a room, such as the wood office, go to the properties, we'll scroll down there into the identity data. We see the name of the room as well as a material finish that's been associated with it. So in this case, it's a WD01. Now I've got a key schedule that is being used to take that key, which is WD01, and it tells us that the room has a material name of oak flooring, gives me the manufacturer, finish, things like that. So let's just take a look here at those room schedules and the material finish schedule. So if we open up the material finish schedule, again, there are the key names, but notice we've got another key here, or another property called image. Now that already exists for those system properties. So simply if I wanted to add an image for AD01, which happens to be adamantium, by the way, everybody's favorite material to put into a room. If I want to associate an image with that, we simply click there, click on the Browse button. Here I've already got these images that I've loaded up into the project. Simply select the image, click OK. It's now associated with it. Now again, because the room schedule is using a key schedule, when I go to the room schedule, you'll now see that Adamantium Office is using that image. Finally, when I go over to the sheet and we see the finished schedule placed, we now have an image for every one of those materials. Pretty slick, right? Now, if I wanted to do it by floors, I'm going to have to do things a little bit differently. Okay, so let's go back up to our level 1. And this time I'll pick on the floor, which again is simply a wood floor. This one, when we go in to edit the type, edit the structure, we see that I'm using a cherry material. Now when I click Browse here, you won't find any property here in Identity or Graphics or Appearance or even over on Physical and Thermal tabs that has to do with the image that is associated with the material. What we need to do first is add a custom property, project property, for the materials. So let's do that now. Go to the Manage tab. We'll go to our project properties or project parameters, and I'll add a new one for, we'll call this material image. Could be a type property. And when I scroll down, we'll associate this. Actually, we don't see materials listed there for type properties. So let's set it back to instance. And now we have materials available. So click on materials. And you'll see that the type of parameter, we want to choose image. That is a type that didn't exist prior to 2015. Click OK. So now when we go into materials and I go to that cherry material, we now have the little button down there in the lower left for custom parameters. We'll go to custom parameters, there's material image, and now I'm able to simply browse. And for cherry, for example, I could pick whichever one of those images I want to be associated with the cherry material. From that point on, if I were to create a material schedule, we would be able to see that image listed there in the material schedule. Now finally, one last one. Let's go ahead and go back to this overall view. See that I've got these furniture configurations. I have one simple table, but then I have several different chairs. And ultimately, what we want to end up with is a schedule that looks like this. So currently we see that those images are being pulled in for all of those chairs. However, one of the chairs has no image associated with it. Now a chair, of course, is a loadable family. So we want to associate the image with the family itself. So let's go to our chair executive family. So if I simply pick it, we'll double click it to go into the editor. Here's a couple of tips that I just put in there talking about how to add the image. So we're going to go into our family types. You need to make sure that you expand the identity data area. That's this right there. For some reason, by default, it's minimized so you don't see the image. So hit the drop down. There we go. There's the type image parameter. We're now able to click that and we could browse to the image that I want to bring in. These are my chair images, and I want to point out that whatever image we bring in actually gets loaded into the project. So you definitely don't want to bring in a super high resolution image, otherwise you're really going to be bogging down your project without needing to. So what I recommend is probably resizing it to around 300 by 300 pixels. Depending on the size you're going to be printing it ultimately, that's probably going to be more than large enough for most of your schedules. Do that either with Microsoft Paint, or typically I use Photoshop for that. If I go to the thumbnails, here we see a list of all those. I'm just simply going to pick our chair executive. Again, you'll notice that I've already resized it to 300 pixels. So now when I reload that back into the project, we'll overwrite. And now when we go to our sheet, boom, just like that, we see that the image was loaded. Every one of the instances of our executive chair has now been updated with that image. So use your imagination. I think you'll be able to find a lot of different uses for placing images within your schedules in Revit 2015.